what I want to try to focus on a little bit more is sort of what's happening with the IMR and UR process, what we're seeing from a practical standpoint, from a litigation standpoint, what the DIR is seeing, and what the applicant's attorneys are trying to do to the IMR process, and then what we might expect in the coming year. When the food comes, go ahead and just start going for it. And questions, stop me, pull me aside, just feel free to throw out comments too, especially if I say something wrong. So, IMR is a creature of SB 863, 899, came out in the utilization review process, and now takes the place of AMEs and QMEs deciding what future medical treatment anybody should get in the workers' comp process. It's all a bunch of alphabet soup. Utilization review is governed by Labor Code Section 4610. Everybody here knows what utilization review is correct. Some of the vendors here may even know better what utilization review is about. They probably deal with it more than I do. So if you have a better handle on it than I do, please speak up. IMR, independent medical review, has now taken the place and supplanted our ability to direct, control, and monitor future medical treatment, or even current medical treatment for injured workers. All statutory sites are found in Labor Code. I'm not going to read through them, but you want to look at Labor Code Section 4610, 97, 92. And those will take you to the best. Those will take you to all the specific requirements. When someone is treating for an industrial injury, the treating doctor is now required to, when requesting treatment, fill out what's called an RFA, a request for authorization. Prior to the RFA being actually codified, and there is an actual RFA form, the doctor's report had to meet specific requirements. It had to have a request for authorization in bold across the top. It had to have the treatment request clearly outlined, and it couldn't be buried, as we've seen in some reports from somebody in Emeryville whose name starts with D and ends with M, and whose other name starts with D and ends with J, where they stick it about the fourth page in and have a, by the way, we're going to give a lot of medications, and we recommend a functional restoration program at our facility. So prior to the RFA form, treatment requests still had to be very clearly communicated to the claim examiner, which would then trigger the utilization review process. Utilization review would then have certain time frames within which to delay, deny, or modify the treatment being requested. As of July 1st of last year, 2013, the IMR process is now the next step in line. So after utilization review makes their decision, if the applicant's attorney or the applicant is aggrieved by the decision, they can then take the case to independent medical review. And we'll talk in more detail about this. This is the broad run to start. But they take it to independent medical review. There's a large secret organization called Maximus. I think they're connected with the NSA. We don't really know where they are. We don't really know who works for them. We don't know how much money they're making. But they have the sole contract in California with the volume of the IMR requests that are being in. Maximum is probably about the 7th largest grossing domestic product state in the country right now, in and of itself. IMR is available to applicants. It is not available to defendants. If defendants are aggrieved by the UR process, they cannot go through, by the UR process, I'm sorry, they cannot go through the IMR process. So that's pretty clear. Most people know it, but we're still getting a lot of FAQs and questions from clients about, well, gee, we don't like this. What do we do? You don't. Actually, you do. We'll get to that in a second. The way to fight UR, obviously, is to file a request for an expedited hearing. Defendants are allowed to still do that. There is a split in some of the discussion right now about what our recourse is. But if you don't like what utilization review has said, and it's going to IMR, we're telling our clients that at a minimum at least file a request for an expedited hearing and try to get a dual track going, where you have the issue being brought before the board, and you also have the issue going through the IMR process to Maximus. Now, there are people who will tell you that the judges don't have jurisdiction over this, but it is something that we are trying to do. The applicant's attorneys actually started that process. They are also doing the dual track litigation. So when they're agreeing, they're taking a request to the board, and request an expedited hearing, they're also filing requests for IMR. And much like your copy service, your medical legals, your deposition fees, it's free to them. So I wasn't in the room at the cost seminar last year or the year before, but I suspect the conversation on something like this, independent medical review, is really going to screw us over. Utilization review is going to screw us over. So we're going to bring it to a screeching halt, and we're going to completely inundate them with every request we can of any kind of treatment that's denied or modified, and we're going to bring the whole system crashing down simply by the volume of requests we give them. So last month, IMR received 350 million requests for treatment. Just check this out. About 15 to 18,000 requests in a month for independent medical review. At an average of about $400 or $500 a pop, you can do the math. Maximum's growing. They might take over the United States as the largest provider. In fact, I think Maximus is run by some applicants attorneys. We've heard from the legislature, from the medical unit, that they probably Maximus contract runs through the end of 2014, so they may be going out to bid. When it was first developed, they were the only company who had their hat in the ring, and they were the only one who got the contract. There are other companies out there who will do it, so looking forward in 2015, there may be other companies who do that. Stepping back, from a practical standpoint, if you have a utilization review that is pretty airtight, and the applicant's attorney has gone to IMR, what do you have to do? How do you have to respond as a person? Three of you are here. How do you have to respond? You have to make sure that you do everything by the book and everything by the letter. So much like the UR process when it first started, when utilization review first came out, the judges were very hostile to it. And the decision was made to deny or delay treatment. We would go to an expedited hearing, and all of the judges have a tick list. And they would go down and say, was this done by a doctor of the same specialty? Check. Was this done in the proper time frame? Check. They would have about 10 tick marks. And if the utilization review was not done exactly right, they would say, I'm sorry, it's faulty, it's out, you get the treatment. Much like that, IMR is taking the same tactic. The submissions, the information that's given, and the application file by IMR has to be filled out and done by the letter. So claims examiners have to sign the application. The utilization review that was done preceding the IMR, prompting the IMR, has to be attached to the information that gets sent to them. One of the many questions we get from clients and claims people is, well, what do I have to send to them? They've gotten it, they've accepted it, now they said, please send us information. And I have a 1985 file, and it's got a medical file about this big, and I got 4 expanders back here. What do I have to send to them? There's no real, there are some specific guidelines in the statute about what they want, but there's nothing that says what you have to and don't have to give. The UR review, they have to give. The current medical reports, you have to give. Obviously, the requests that prompt the original UR review, and then the IMR request has to go. As far as records go, AME reports, prior treatment doctor reports, we're using a reasonable standard right now. So if it's a 27-year-old injury and the treatment dispute just arose last year, send the last couple of years' worth of medical reports. Send, obviously, comprehensive QME or AME reports. Send any kind of review. Now, the statute allows for any other information that is important in reaching this decision. So can you send a nurse case manager report? Can you send a synopsis from a drug review company? It hasn't been tested yet. I don't actually have a good answer, so if somebody does, I'm willing to listen. But I'm telling people, look, you can go ahead and send anything until somebody says that you can't.
Oh,
Oh. So I'm saying basically the more information, the better. Maximus is not charged by the page nor by the hour. They charge as a unit. So certain requests have a certain fee, a scale fee. So whether you send them 3 pages or 3,000 pages, it's going to be just about the same cost within a couple $100. But the more information you send, the better they can reach a determination. The more alert determination they can come out with. The appeal from IMR. If IMR is the applicant, appeal goes directly to the administrative director. Applicants' hearings are just now starting to get to that point. The timelines on the IMR turnaround right now is about 3 months, so they're getting to the submissions from late September, October. They say they're getting faster. I'm not sure I see it because as they try to catch up, the more requests are coming in. And this goes back to some of the practical aspects, and this is something you may want to talk to management about, maybe something you want to talk to policymakers about. A number of our clients, a number of defendants are looking at this and saying, we've got 3 IMR requests, one for cream, one for 6 visits of physical therapy, and one for aqua therapy times 4. Do you really want to spend $500 and you are denied on 4 visits of aqua therapy that are going to cost $150? I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't, but there are some practical aspects to this that have to be considered. There are a number of decisions posted on the DIR website, dir.ca.gov, and they have a whole laundry list of the decisions that are coming out from independent medical review. So you can actually go through and see several hundred of these decisions to get an idea of what is and isn't being approved. Much to my disappointment and chagrin, the functional restoration program with an unknown group in Emeryville is getting authorized quite a bit and approved quite a bit at $40,000 a pop, which really sucks because the program doesn't do anything, it doesn't help anybody, and it feathers the pockets of some people. Program, and if somebody works for that group, I apologize. Sorry. So if anybody's here representing